Don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Hope everyone had a good weekend. My weekend was extremely busy. It probably was a good thing the Saints played on Thursday night, because anybody that knows me knows that my regular 9-to-5 job, I'm a station manager. I'm a station manager and production manager at WLGI, and this weekend was the Myrtle Beach Jazz Festival. So that took up a lot of time, man. It was a 3-day weekend, but I always enjoy doing festivals around this time of the year, but it's extremely exhausting. And speaking of extremely exhausting, we got to talk about your New Orleans Saints. And as people file in, I ask that you hit the like button. Shouts out to everybody in the chat. Shouts out to everybody listening. If you're at work or wherever you are right now, thank you so much for your time. But I mentioned being extremely exhausted by the New Orleans Saints, and I think that I pretty much am saying some of the things that Saints fans all over are feeling right now. You know, it is extremely frustrating to watch a team that has so much promise and has so much ability and capabilities to be one of the best in the league. And unfortunately, they just can't get out of their own way. And we talked about this on several occasions since the game happened. Everybody has given their take about what's going on with the team and how can they possibly fix it. Some people don't even have answers at all. But the question on this episode is, can the Saints organization do whatever it takes to win the fan base back? Because right now the morale is extremely low. You have Saints fans out here that are really questioning their fandom. They're really questioning the direction of this team. And it's, you know, and honestly, I had an opportunity to kind of sit back and kind of reflect about the game and some of the takes that some of the Saints fans have out here. And I have to be honest, you know, a lot of us, especially Saints fans around my age, those that don't know, I'm not shying away. I'm 37. So a lot of us have a little bit of a benefit because we knew or know how bad this team could possibly be. Because growing up in the times where the Saints weren't very good and the games were blacked out, couldn't really watch Saints games. People weren't really interested in Saints games. Most people that stayed in New Orleans were rather Cowboy or 49ers fans. We kind of understand this. But you also have like a younger generation that are not used to the Saints losing. I think one person actually brought up, we're going back to the Haslett days, which is funny to me because when I think about Jim Haslett, I don't think about some of the dark ages of the New Orleans Saints. Honestly, I think about some of the most promising days of the New Orleans Saints. I mean, Jim Haslett was the first coach to win a playoff game with the New Orleans Saints. I was actually in attendance at that game. I want to say I was maybe 13 years old, and I can remember going to that game as the Saints took on the St. Louis Rams. And it's funny because you could tell that person was pretty young, because they felt that was the dark ages. But then you start thinking about, you know, people my age. We start thinking about Rick Venturi. We start thinking about Wade Phillips. We start thinking about Mike Ditka. We start thinking about coaches like that. We start thinking about players like Billy Joe Hobart, Billy Joe Tolliver, Jim Everett, Wade Wilson. I mean, Danny Warfel. the list goes on. And I'm probably losing a couple of you. You probably wondering to yourself, who the heck am I talking about? But that's how Saints fans are feeling right now. And the New Orleans Saints have got to fix this, because when you think about some of those players that I named, those were teams that weren't very good. There was very little prosperity that was going to take place with that. Honestly, during those times when the Saints won, you kind of said, the Saints won? You kind of said it in shock because you weren't used to it. Now, there is a completely different culture when it comes to talking about Saints football, and it has a lot to do with Sean Payton and Drew Brees, because you had these two individuals come in 2006. A lot of you that's probably listening to this right now, we're probably very, very young, second, third grade. I've heard people say they're around 10 or 12 years old. So honestly, you started to kind of grow and learn about football during the time where the Saints were winning. But now it just seems like the sky is falling and everybody has become Chicken Little because they're not used to being in this situation. I have to say this, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to continue to say it. The reality is that the New Orleans Saints are trying desperately to hold on to those glory years, because there were few and far in between before Drew Brees and Sean Payton came through the spot. And I understand that. I understand that you don't want to go back to the 90s. You don't want to go back to the days of the quarterbacks that I mentioned or the coaches that I mentioned. But in order for you to embark on a new journey, to embark on, a new type of Saints football, you have to let go of the past and you got to keep moving forward. Like Sean Payton isn't, more than likely, he isn't coming back. Drew Brees isn't coming back. So you got to find ways in order for you to develop a new culture. And by trying to dig in the crates and sweat to the oldies, you are making the culture even worse, because you basically are telling the fan base the organization is so good that no matter who coaching, we're going to win. And that's just not the case. That's the reason why you have so many great coaches out here and they get the big ups, because they do such a great job with their organizations, catapulting them forward and making them relevant. What the Saints did when it came to Dennis Allen, to me, that was a little bit of a scare tactic. That was an organization that was afraid of change. That was an organization that was afraid of being in a position that they don't want to be in. But their fear, them being so fearful, we're in a situation right now. And I don't see an end in sight. Like, I'm serious. I do not see an end in sight when it comes to being a legit contender. Like, I'm not talking about winning football games and that's it, right? I mean, because any lame duck coach can win some football games. It's about continuing to be a successful franchise. And Dennis Allen, to me, can't do that. It's just that simple. Like, it's rather you got it or you don't. It's rather you're good at what you do or you're not. Dennis Allen possesses a certain skill set that is not the type of skill set that a head coach is supposed to have, right? I mean, he is good at one particular thing, and that's coaching defense. Other than that, it's pretty obvious that he's not good at being a head coach. And some people would say, well, the offense is the issue. He's more of a defensive guy. I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm pretty sure you saw this as well. The Saints have lost under Dennis Allen. They have lost in every way possible, if you think about it. Giving up a big lead. The offense didn't let them down. The defense didn't let them down. When it comes down to situational football, can you be able to outwit the opposition? They lost in that way. Every way that you can think of that is fathomable, the Saints have lost. So to me, it's not just about, if you get Pete Carmichael out of here and replace him with someone else that knows how to run the offense, the Saints will be a Super Bowl contender. Because I don't believe that. And I also don't believe it is because you're starting to see something that I have not seen in a Saints locker room in a long time, and that is whispers coming out of the locker room, little cryptic messages from players. And when you start to see stuff like that, that tells you everything that you need to know, because no one, if they feared the head coach, is going to come out and be as candid on social media after games as some of these players have been. I haven't seen it. I don't care how bad things were when Sean Payton was the head coach. I mean, it was to a point where a lot of speculation was going on because as fans, as onlookers, even sometimes as reporters, they were not privy to what was going on inside of the organization. You may have like one or two people, maybe like Nick Underhill or someone else that probably was privy to, deeper, what was going on like inside the locker room, like, what's really going on, like really getting inside there, because they were so tight, so tight and close knit. Now it's like we pretty much know, and you're seeing guys, be more open. And to me, I just feel like this is a recipe for disaster. And I also just feel like the Saints organization are extremely stubborn. I feel like they know some of the situations need to change, but instead of them trying to do it, they rather just sit there and double down on it, because maybe it's the arrogance of them. Maybe it's just the fact that, they don't care what fans are saying because they feel like as fans, we don't know what we're talking about. But at the end of the day, you cannot fake the funk. You cannot like sit up here and just pretend like we're not seeing what we're seeing. What we see is an incompetent coaching staff that is led by a coach historically throughout his coaching career is 18-42. And if you don't want to add that Raider record, he's 10-14. He has lost more games than he's won overall. And you gave him another chance because you told us that the Raiders organization was dysfunctional and yours is not. And yet here we are in the same position. And it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter who the quarterback is, right? You can make an argument, though, Jameis Winston was Sean Payton's choice. Well, now you got Derek Carr, and it seems like it's the same situation. You had Andy Dalton technically, because when Jameis got hurt last year, you refused to put him back in the game. Andy Dalton was your choice, and you couldn't win with him. Derek Carr, as of right now, was your choice, and you can't win with him. So that tells you everything that you need to know. I don't understand what the Saints need to see from Dennis Allen, what they need to see from this coaching staff that they feel is going to get everybody back on board. I did a poll. On X, and I was asking a question about, what would it take? What would it take for the New Orleans Saints organization to be able to get back in the good graces of the fan base? That was the question. Okay. And it was a poll. All right. So 1,062 people voted on this. And thank you so much if you did. 26% says that they'll be back on board if the Saints can go on a winning streak. 5% says if they win a division. 13% says if they win a playoff game. And 56% says if you fired Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael. I mean, the people have spoken. I mean, it is going to be hard to sell people on Pete Carmichael and Dennis Allen going forward. Like, nobody, honestly, at this particular point is truly believing that the Saints are going to go anywhere. And honestly, nobody has any hope. Unless you like a really true diehard Saints fan, which I like to consider myself, but I can't even be that delusional. Nobody is really believing this. Like, for example, the Saints have a game versus the Indianapolis Colts, right? The Indianapolis Colts, if I'm not mistaken, they lost yesterday to the Cleveland Browns 39-38. The Cleveland Browns have the number one defense in the NFL. And the Indianapolis Colts with Gardner Minshew put up 38 points against them. But yet the New Orleans Saints have struggled to put any type of points on the board, even though last week they put some points up, which was a shock to a lot of people. But Does anybody honestly believe that this team can consistently do that? Right? And when you got players, really pretty much, in it for themselves because they're so frustrated at the situation. You got Derek Carr throwing his teammates under the bus. I mean, you got all these things going on. You got Michael Thomas out here, trying to help people understand what Chris Olave was doing on certain plays and trying to encourage him and letting everybody know it wasn't his fault. You got Dennis Allen on press conferences, like minimizing Derek Carr's imperfections, but amplifying Chris Olave's inability to not run the route correctly. So you say on one hand, there was some things that he did well, but there's some plays that he could have back. But then you're so open and very, very, candid, about Chris Olave not running the right route. So that tells you everything that you need to know right there. That's not a good look at all. And it just sounds like to me that this is going to be a disaster. And especially if the Saints go out here against Indianapolis, they go to Indy and Lucas Oil Stadium, and they put forth an effort that a lot of people feel like leaves a lot to be desired. You might find yourself looking at this team wondering, are they going to be picking in the top 10? I mean, to me, I wouldn't. I said this on X, formerly known as Twitter also. I do not want to see the Saints picking in the top 10. I don't. Like, I know some people are like, man, if they pick in the top 10, they'll pick this. But no, based on what I've seen out of this organization, they care more about optics than fixing situations. Like, they looking at Derek Carr, you can tell, like, honestly, it seems like as of right now, it seems like they made a mistake. If it continues to be this way, the Saints organization, to me, are so stubborn when it comes to certain situations. They can have Drake May, they can have Jordan Travis, they can have Michael Panik Jr., Shedeur Sanders sitting right there for them for the taking, and they will sit up there and take somebody else that probably not going to end up panning out, or somebody that's probably middle of the pack, just to say, well, we're happy with the situation that we're in right now. And they would go out there in 2024 and do the same exact thing. You have to put your pride to the side. You have to put your pride to the side in order for you to fix certain situations. And honestly, if you're not going to do that, then somebody else needs to, because the name of the game is to win, putting yourself in the best position to succeed. You see teams like the 49ers, they're pretty much stacked. But how many times do we see during the week they're going out here getting players, and it just seems like it's overkill? And why is it overkill? Because they understand that one of these key players are, a twist ankle away, a broken collarbone away, a separated shoulder away, and the next thing you know, all that production is gone. You have to constantly think about, how are you going to fix this team? How are you going to get better? What can we do? We can't just look at the depth chart and say, you know what, we all right. You always got to be finding ways to get better. Like I said, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see the New Orleans Saints pass up on a future quarterback, sitting around here trying to double down on a guy who is not a winner, who is a guy, to me, I honestly, I had some level of respect for Derek Carr, but as of right now, I don't have any respect for him. Anybody that will stand in front of a podium and sit up there and say some of the, and act the way that he did, to me, that is not helping anybody. That is not true leadership qualities. I've seen Drew Brees talk to guys who have run the wrong routes. I ain't never seen them react like that. I've never seen it, because that's what leaders do. Leaders do not make the situation worse. They're not going to pull you off on the sidelines. They're not going to blast you on network television with a bunch of cameras watching. And to me, like I said, man, I just feel like when it comes to Derek Carr, he's extremely thin-skinned. You can tell, like, in the body language, you can tell in the way that he talks. He has this false sense of who he actually is. He talks as if he's elite. He carries himself like he's elite, but he's not. And to me, it's one of those situations where you can't just sit up here and be calling out your teammates. You know, my grandfather is a minister, right? My grandfather is a minister, and one thing that I have an appreciation for is my grandfather's stories and his analogies, and how he tells them. And he tells this story quite often. He talks about this lady who was in her kitchen, and she was talking to a friend, and they were looking across the street, and this other woman was hanging her clothes outside. Now, some of y'all probably losing, but once upon a time, people couldn't afford washers and dryers back in the days. Sometimes you might have a washer and no dryer, a dryer and no washer. But anyway, and you would hang your clothes on a clothesline. So the lady was looking out the window, seeing a lady putting her sheets on a clothesline, and she was just looking at them, and she was like, "Oh, it's just so embarrassing. She should be embarrassed. And those blankets don't even look clean. They don't look clean." And all of a sudden, like, she walks her friend outside, and they look across the street, and the blankets are white as snow. And they both looked at each other and said, "Well, it looks like her blankets are clean. It looks like your windows are the ones that's dirty." What I'm saying is, how can you go out here and blast somebody and try to talk about somebody when, your shirt tail slipping, right? I mean, we all seen the all 22. We all went back and watched the game. We seen, like, how can you sit up here and overthrow guys, miss wide open wide receivers, keep on checking down running backs, not even looking at your second and your third option? But yet, if Chris Olave one time runs the wrong route, or, not doing what you want him to do, all of a sudden you blast him, going at Pete Carmichael. Like, people are not naive. And I want to give credit. I don't normally do this because sometimes I don't feel like they know what the heck they talking about. But I got to give Mike Florio some credit on this. He said, and I'm encouraging everybody to check it out on Pro Football Talk. He said, it seems to me like Derek Carr goes out here and he basically becomes all animated when somebody else does something wrong to make it amplified to get the target off him and onto somebody else. That's not true leadership. That is not true leadership. And most people are talking about, oh, Michael Thomas putting it on himself, not blaming the coaches. Oh, Alvin Kamara putting it on himself, not blaming the coaches. See, it ain't really a player issue. No, if you are a great player, you're not looking at anybody else. You're not looking at somebody else and what they're not doing. And you can know that deep down inside. You can know it deep down inside that you're not the problem. But you're not going to throw your teammates under the bus, especially in an open forum. To me, Derek Carr is like one of those people, if, you got a chance to say, if y'all falling off a cliff, right? And let's just say, for example, both of your body weight is making the cliff kind of cave in. He seemed like to me like he's a guy that would probably push you off. Like, seriously. Like, because that type of behavior in crucial and clutch situations like that tells me everything you need to know. And don't tell me that it didn't have anything to do with the fact that the crowd was booing the New Orleans Saints offense. And a part of him feel like, and he know deep down inside, they were booing him, because he brought that up also in the press conference when he was saying, like, it feels like everybody hates you. Like, to me, I just feel like that's thin skin type stuff. Who cares, right? Everybody saw that as soon as the Saints started to get back in the game and the offense started to move the ball, the fans got back into the game. The team started moving the football, the fans got back into the game. The fans want something to cheer for. Why are you sitting up here caring about what somebody else says? If you believe in yourself, you should go out there and perform. Who cares who hates you? Honestly, people tell me all the time, man, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't care. But guess what? I have this podcast. I love doing this podcast, and there's nothing anybody can say. Oh, you're a casual fan. Seriously, why would I sit up here caring about what somebody that probably only knows me through Twitter and not me personally? Why would I care? Why are you sitting up here worried about what other people say about you? Go out there and perform. Do what you have to do. Haters are going to hate. People are going to criticize you regardless. But I just feel like that's thin-skinned behavior by Derek Carr. It's just that simple. You got to remove all that. And I honestly, to me, I don't know. Look, he is who he is. And I watching that game and seeing him as animated and going off on the sidelines and making it seem like he was out there like threading the needle and putting on Drew Brees type performance. In reality, everybody's seen all 22. This has been ongoing talk for the last couple of days. Everybody's seen this dude overthrowing guys. Everybody's seen Chris Olave being open on 3 and 4 occasions. Everybody's seen Michael Thomas open. Everybody's seen that. And yeah, Alvin Kamara ran the wrong route. And yeah, Chris Olave quit on a few plays. He should, he should have ran a little bit faster. But when it comes down to it, you ain't do everything you can to help that team win as well. So how can you sit up here and try to throw anybody under the bus? In reality, you look just as worse. So that's just the way I feel. But I go ahead and read some of your comments, and then we'll go ahead and take it from there. Bruce Saint says, an elite player thinks I do my job, that's it. If there's something wrong, it's me. Exactly. It's about taking accountability for what you do. That's what it's all about. Like if you're out here if you're out here throwing people under the bus and not looking at yourself as if you perfect and white as snow, man, come on, give me a freaking break. That's when everybody really just gonna start going at you, and they're really going to start analyzing you with a fine-tooth comb. Because I know I am. Now that I'm seeing you talk, telling Chris Olave to run, come on, what are you doing? I'm really going to critique you. I'm going to critique everything you do now, because I need to see precision. I need to see almost, I need to see 70% passing every week. I need to see a really good touchdown to interception ratio. That's what I need to see, because if you can sit up here and throw your teammates under the bus and tell them what they need to be doing, that must mean you perfect, right? So we'll see. Why are you here? Are you Carr's cousin or agent? I don't know what we're talking about there. I don't know exactly. Let me see. Derek Carr been doing this. He got 3 head coaches fired doing the same exact thing. Look, all I know is I knew about Derek Carr and snippets. I've watched, I hate to say it, but the majority of the time when I watch Derek Carr, he played relatively well. And also if you combine the stats, if you a person that didn't really watch him that much, but probably watched him on occasions, and a lot of the things that were said about him were mostly positive, you would get excited. And I said this, man, look, I'm not one of those people that just sit up here and throw the brick, hide my hand. No, I said it. I was lobbying for this dude to come to New Orleans. I was seriously, I'm not going to sit up here and pretend I wasn't. But based on what I saw and what I'm seeing, and I feel very strongly the Saints made a mistake. I really do. I really feel like they made a mistake. And I think that those players in that locker room are going to eventually lose respect for him if he continues to act the way that he does. And I really feel wholeheartedly in that press conference when Alvin Kamara spoke to the media, I really felt he was talking about Derek Carr when he said, first off, he compared himself. He looked at himself and said, I'm not really a rah-rah guy. I'm more of a guy, if I say something, I want it to mean something, so that's why I kind of pick my spot. He said, but when you telling people, come on, let's do this over and over again, it falls on deaf ears. Who was the most animated on the sidelines? Who else could he be talking about here? Who else could he be talking about? That's what I'm saying. You up here telling people, man, you need to do this, man. People man, get out of my face. Especially when I'm wide open on a deep post and you can't even hit me. You're basically as soon as you snap the ball, you looking for the check down. How many times have we seen Drew Brees? We always have been in awe with Drew Brees, workout regimen and how he prepared for a game. How many times have we seen Drew Brees pretend like he got a football in his hand and then, move his shoulder from the left, the right, and then the left again. When he threw the football, he's looking at his second and his third reads. This dude, as soon as he snapped the ball, he ready to throw it to Kamara. And honestly, like, man, I'm wondering what the injury report is when it comes to, like, I don't know if they talking about he had a groin injury or something like that, but there was like one play where nobody even touched him, and all of a sudden he goes down to the ground and stuff, and the medical staff had to, like, I feel like, stuff like that, to me, it just feels like you just trying to get sympathy from the crowd. Like, oh, look, man, look, I'm so hurt, but I'm out here, I'm putting forth a warrior effort. I got the separated shoulder. I got the groin injury. Like, I'm just trying to do this because I'm such a tough guy. Like, man, give me a freaking break. Like, seriously, man. Like, it's looking very political right now, if you ask me. It's looking very political. And I said this before. I felt like there was some red flags to me when I felt like he was talking way too much about the Raiders getting rid of him. Even like, he was much removed from this. And he still was up here talking about what he did with the Raiders and how the Raiders didn't want him. Like, not understanding that this is a business. I felt like that was a little bit of a red flag with that. And then, I used the example of him reminding me of this fictional character on this show called The Boys called Homelander. Homelander is a superhero with superhuman strength and one of the most powerful superheroes ever. And the only thing he really wants is the adulation of the crowd. He wants to be loved and admired. He wants people to praise him. Man, and he kind of strikes me as that Homelander type. But, I digress. Winston is head and shoulders better than that. I don't want to say he head and shoulders better than that, but I can tell you this. I'm pretty sure he could have hit a wide open Chris Olave. I can tell you that right now. Let's see. You have to have thick skin in NFL. Yeah, pretty much. You got to, man, because you're never as good as they say you are. You're never as bad as they say you are. But you also have to have some level of reality about your play. And I just feel like a lot of the things that about Derek Carr, I just think he has a false sense of reality about himself. Like, seriously. Like, sometimes you got to look at yourself and just realize that there's something wrong. But what he did on the sidelines is like basically like I should be absolved of anything that happened in this game. Booing his ass in the Superdome is going to get worse. Yeah, I mean, if he continues to play like that and the offense continue to play like that, yeah, but don't apologize to me, then go back and do the same stuff again and try to apologize again. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a recipe for disaster. And some people do that. Baby, I'm sorry. I know I came in late. I won't come back late no more. And then the next day you come in late again. Like, man, what the heck going on here? You know what I'm saying? Maybe we need to reevaluate this thing. All I'm saying is, man, I don't see an end in sight. Like, Derek Carr is who he is. And now, honestly, he put an even bigger target on his back because now people are really going to be critiquing this dude because of how he blew up on the sidelines. And a lot of people feel like he threw his teammates under the bus. A lot of people going to be critiquing him a different way. So if he don't play nearly perfect going forward, man, people might be lobbying for this dude to get up out of town. Like, seriously. Like, you cannot do that. Like, seriously. Especially, like, you don't even go here, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're like the new kid, right? You can't be around here, you know what I'm saying, like throwing your weight around and people don't even really know you. Like, you look at Michael Thomas and, homegrown. Chris Olave, homegrown. Alvin Kamara, homegrown. We have grown to love and respect these players for what they have done on the field. Like, dude, like, there's a conversation between do you suck or are you really good? Are you elite or are you good? Are you top tier or are you bottom shelf? Like, you don't go here, dude. Like, you're new here. So, like, nobody is looking at you and like, man, you know what? Like, man, this is our leader right here. Like, nobody, like, you have to earn that right. You have to earn that. Like, when we think about Drew Brees coming over from the San Diego Chargers to the Saints, he earned our respect by going out there playing, showing a warrior mentality, helping players that are, middle of the pack become extraordinary, running backs, turning them into credible players, and not throwing his teammates under the bus no matter what the situation is. Like you're new. So people are still trying to figure out should they embrace you or not. And by doing stuff like that, I'm telling you, man, I don't think a lot of Saints fans are embracing Derek Carr and have no intentions to do so unless he really goes out here and channels his inner Joe Montana, Tom Brady, or Drew Brees, which I don't see that happen. TJ, he reminds me of Aaron Brooks without smiling. I don't even want to say he reminds me of Aaron Brooks, because here's the thing. Aaron Brooks, to me, kind of was an overachiever. Like, nobody really expected Aaron Brooks to do anything. Aaron Brooks was the backup to Jeff Blake. Jeff Blake was supposed to be the starting quarterback. Jeff Blake gets hurt. Get hurt. He was out for the season. In comes Aaron Brooks. Aaron Brooks goes out there, plays well, leads the Saints to the playoffs, win a playoff game. He overachieved, right? But when it comes to Derek Carr was a second-round pick. He was the guy that was supposed to be the franchise quarterback. He was the guy that even when the NFL draft took place, people were like, why don't anybody want to get Derek Carr? He should have been a first-round pick. So he already came in with high expectations. But to me, I don't see. I have, like, anybody that knows me knows that I got my thoughts about Aaron Brooks. But look, even with Aaron Brooks, I don't like until the end, like after Katrina, that's when things start happening with Aaron Brooks. But I had respect for him because he kind of embraced it. And then Aaron Brooks gave you something that you never had, a playoff win. So I mean, in that regard, like, at least you can hold that. But what is Derek Carr giving you besides the fact that he's Derek Carr and he's supposed to be good? And that's not good enough for me. This is Carr. He isn't getting any better. Yeah, I mean, look, he's up there in age. He's in his 10th season. He's still giving you the same things that he gave you when he was with the Vegas and Oakland. So what more can you do? Winston lost the Green Bay game single-handedly and couldn't score any touchdowns in the Charger game. What happened? Winston lost the Green Bay game single-handedly and couldn't score any touchdowns in the Chargers game. What Green Bay game we talking? We're talking about the Green Bay game a couple weeks ago? All right, okay. Now we low. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I want people to understand something. When you are a backup quarterback, you don't really get too many reps going into the week. This man comes in cold. You expect for this dude to go out there. Like, think about this. How, like, this now, to me, this is hypocrisy. Now, we're all in agreement that this offense can't move the football due to the fact of P. Carmichael's play calling and his inability to be able to, scheme up plays in order for the wide receivers, the running back, and key players to make plays, right? We accept that, right? So how is it that we can accept that 1 minute, but when soon as Jameis Winston comes in, like, that's the reason why they lost? Like, come on, man. When are we gonna start calling a spade and just say we don't like the dude? Like, let's just go call a spade a spade. Let's just say we don't like the dude, because the energy is not the same. It's like when we talk about Derek Carr, you got Derek Carr apologists out there that's willing to jump to the aid. Oh, the offense is not good. Oh, the offensive line is not giving them a chance. Last year, when people were saying the same thing about Winston, that's the excuse. That's the excuse. That's the excuse. That's the excuse. What is it then? It's like, come on, man. We got to keep the same energy when we talking about these players, man. We can't just sit up here and try to cape for people that we like and then throw the other player under the bus. We also got to acknowledge, once again, the talk has been the offensive play calling. So how can we sit up here and just criticize the offensive play calling, but then all of a sudden Jameis comes in the game and he's supposed to overcome play calling. He's supposed to overcome all these other situations, but the quarterback that you think is better than him can't even do that either. So what are we doing? What are we doing? Come on, man. Like, just call a spade and say you're not a big fan of the guy. It's okay. It's all right. Like, we acting like the Saints organization. We just care about optics, not me. I'll never trust this team until I see change in management philosophies. This team is run like a mom and pop shop, not by serious football people. Thank you very much for the $5. We that says who that TJ seems like Carr is always underthrowing the wide receivers. It's like they have a slow and stride to catch or contest on a pass play. Yeah, they had a pass a couple weeks ago, man. It looked like a punt. I want to say Rashid Shaheed got behind the defense, but he had to slow down and catch the pass. I want to say it was against the Texans. It was a pass, I guess he had to like jump and try to go over the cornerback's head in order for him to catch the ball. So, yeah. Vito, thank you very much for the $4.99. Says if Carr was the captain on the Titanic, he would have snuck on a lifeboat and let the ship sink. That's giving me that type of vibes, man. If you're gonna if you are going to blast your teammates on network television in front of a world audience, trust and believe, like that, it won't stop there. Who that Nate said, facts, TJ, get them out of here. Thank y'all for donating. I really do appreciate that. Strolling down a little bit more, and I apologize if I skipped some of your comments here, but just want to kind of keep a good flow going. Says, hey, TJ, Derek Carr has a real emotional problem. Carr is not an elite or good quarterback. He's not even a decent game manager on the field at the point. Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Carr at this point. Well, look, the Raiders are winning football games right now. Didn't the Raiders win yesterday, if I'm not mistaken? Jimmy Garoppolo don't look terrible. Look, here's the thing. I think he does have a little bit of an emotional problem, but I also just think that comes from him trying to please everybody, right? Him trying to, like, wear the mask of elite quarterback, but nobody's buying what you're trying to sell. Like, it's like somebody trying to convince you that they're a millionaire, right? And they got a whole bunch of money, and all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying? Like, you go inside, everything's off. Like the light bill ain't paid, phone, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, man, you can't fake the funk. Like it's pretty obvious here that you're struggling financially. Like he tries to carry himself like he's an elite quarterback. He says all the right things. He talks as if, he's very confident in himself. But I just think deep down inside, he knows that he's not that good. Maybe you got to have some level of confidence, but he knows, man. And I really feel like sometimes like he goes out and he does these things back to what Mike Florio said. He does these things and he becomes animated and he becomes all emotional and stuff like that to try to drive the nail home that the things that are happening are not his fault. But when you look at it, like you share the blame too. And the fact that you try to absolve yourself from these situations just makes you look like an even bigger jerk than ever, and it just makes you look like you disingenuous. It makes you look fake and phony. It's like one of those people like that smile in your face but talks behind your back, like that gives me that type of vibes. If you're going to blast your teammates on network television, brother, ain't no telling what you'll do behind the scenes, like for real. Y'all, I think when they said they don't know what others are doing to prepare for games, I think they're talking about Carr not knowing the plays. I don't know about that. I don't think so. I think when it came to that, I think they feel like he put his best foot forward. But also, I think for the most part, they want this guy to take accountability. Like, you can't just sit up there and just talk about what these other players are doing and not hold yourself accountable. Like, you can talk about that one play, but what about you threw the ball 55 times. This dude threw the ball 55 times in that game. So, you're telling me in 55 throws, you made perfect passes in all 55 of them? He always seemed to get injured when a game is out of reach in the fourth quarters. I'm shaking my head. Yeah, I don't know, man. The boot has said a positive thing about the Saints in 2 years. DC is not a great coach, but definitely not the major problem like the offensive line play call and defense sucked in the last 3 games. He's saying that he said positive things about it. Look, I really feel like this, like nothing has really given me the indication that the Saints would fire Dennis Allen after the season, even though I don't like, honestly, why not? Like, if the Saints don't make the playoffs, if the Saints stay in this same position, why would you keep this dude? The Saints have, going into this season, the Saints have played or will play one of the easiest schedules in the National Football League. The New Orleans Saints have played some of the most unproven quarterbacks in the last, 7 weeks. Like, Trevor Lawrence is probably the best quarterback they played in the last 7 games. You played against Baker Mayfield, a young Bryce Young, a young C.J. Stroud, a starter for the first time, a Jordan Love. Like, you about to play Gardner Minshew next week. None of these guys are like setting the world on fire. Well, C.J. Stroud is. I give him some credit. He's looking really good. But other than that, like, even C.J. Stroud, that was like C.J. Stroud tore you up in the first half, but he ain't really do nothing in the second half. And yet you still couldn't win. So I'm just saying, like, you can't win when you got a bunch of injuries to your team. You can't win when you don't have injuries to your team, to your skilled players. You can't win when the schedule is a little complex. You can't win when the schedule is simplistic. You can't hold a lead. Your defense can't be consistent every single week to a point where they can carry the team. Your offense is led by a guy that you had opportunity to replace, but you kept, and they can't move the football. You select a quarterback who you thought would seal the deal and be able to help with this whole Drew Brees succession plan, and he looks bad. What more do you need to see? Like, seriously, what more do you need to see? This team has lost in any way that you can think of. This team has lost in that particular way. When are we going to sit up here and just say, oh, like, this dude is not that good at leading men? It's just not it. Like, I don't care. Like, we can talk about this till we blue in the face. How many times are we gonna sit up here and just sit up here and try to make this dude work? It's just not happening. Man, the Saints have lost in every way imaginable. And like, the Saints are 3-4 with the easiest schedule in 2023. There's no way in the world the New Orleans Saints with Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, AK, Jamal Williams, Kendre Miller, like, there's no way in the world this team should be 3-4. No way. Like, what more do you need to see? This is like, Dennis Allen, I'm pretty sure, is a really good person. Like, everything that I hear outside the game of football seems like he's a really good person. My thoughts and feelings about him as a head coach, he is not very good. And he won't be. And he never will be. It's just that simple. Because to me, it's going to come down to, can you outwit the person on the other side? And we have seen every coach that has come to the Superdome or the Saints have come to them. If that coach has a little bit of cachet, he gets out coached. And it ain't even close. It ain't even close. Play against Mike Tomlin, got schooled. Played against John Harbaugh, got schooled. Play against Doug Peterson. Like, honestly, I don't care what anybody said. Doug Peterson was really trying to let the Saints organization know that y'all made a mistake. And he made this man look foolish out there. Like, y'all had a chance to get me, but guess what? Look what I'm doing with my new team. I mean, seriously, man, like, what more do you need to see? I don't care what type of defense. Like, honestly, I'm not trying to keep no head coach around just because your defense look good. They have really good defensive coordinators around every corner that will have your defense looking legit. For every Dennis Allen, there's a Vic Fangio type. There's a young up and coming defensive coordinator with a Rex Ryan type personality. You know what I'm saying? Like a Buddy Ryan type system. Like, there are good defensive coordinators that come out and become stars every single year. Offensively, it's the same way. So I'm not trying to sit up here and hold my team hostage just because, you can have a decent defense. I mean, what? So what? Like, unless the defense is going to be having pick sixes every game, your offense can't move the ball. I mean, they can move the ball to the red zone, and then when they move it to the red zone, in come Blake Groupie, and you're crossing your fingers hoping that he can kick a field goal and give you some points. So to me, I'm not trying to sacrifice because this guy can coach some defense. Like, you can find somebody else that can coach some defense. We have a lackluster front office. This buddy system is dragging this franchise down to the slums. Yeah, like I said, holding on to the past, holding on to what Sean Payton did, what Drew Brees did, trying to find players that resemble, Drew Brees as a quarterback, trying to find coaches that was around Sean Payton, that stood next to Sean Payton, that held Sean Payton juicy fruit. It's pretty sad, man. New Orleans don't want a black quarterback. I don't know if they don't want a black quarterback or not. I don't believe that because they was willing to alienate the entire fan base for Deshaun Watson. Like, seriously. Like, so to me, I feel like that's that theory. I don't feel like that's accurate, but I will say this. I don't feel like the issue with Jameis Winston is because he's black. I feel like it's just the fact that they're just not fans of him. They're just not fans of him. And honestly, I just feel like, and it's fair. I feel like Dennis Allen felt that Jameis Winston was not his guy. He did not select him. It was Sean Payton's guy. And he understands where he is as a head coach, not a very successful one. So he feels like if I'm going to go down, I want to go down my way. And as you can see, he's doing it his way, and he's still going down. So to me, I'm not even worried about this. I'm not. I'm telling people, I am not worried. I am not worried about the New Orleans Saints in 2023. I want Dennis Allen to do everything his little mediocre tail can desire. I want him to get the coaches he wanted. I want him to get the players that he wanted. So there would be absolutely no excuse. And the entire world can see what all of us have known already is that he's not very good at being a head coach. Because you don't have any excuse. What is the excuse? Like, seriously, what is the excuse? Where is it? You can't even, like, I know you might want to use Pete Carmichael as a scapegoat, but that was your decision to keep him. So how is it that, like, aren't you calling the shots? Unless, Mickey Loomis is calling the shots and you just a figurehead. And if that's the case, then they all need to get up out of here. Saints bad contract and older roster. NFL doesn't help this team for future. Saints did get some draft capital back, but needs more to help rebuild this team with youth and cheap. Yeah, I mean, you definitely got to be hitting in the draft. Like, seriously, you got to be hitting in the draft for the next couple of years because that is how you're going to get yourself out of this cap situation. Because you're not going to be able to go out there and get some highly touted free agent based on the contracts that you have. But if you go out there and get a draft that's, I'll say 65%, maybe 70% of what you did in 2017, you can be successful. And you see that with a lot of these teams out here that have sustainable success, like the Philadelphia Eagles. Like they built their team. The 49ers, they built their team. You see teams out there building and drafting guys, and then they'll probably incorporate maybe 1-2 highly touted free agents because they spent the majority of their time building their team through the draft. So now you can go out here and you can afford one of these highly touted free agents to go alongside your young quarterback or your young running back or your young wide receiver group. You'll be able to get guys like that. But when you are sacrificing and you're trying to go for broke every single year and you don't have a really legit look in a mirror and realize that, man, we may need to do something a little bit different before we get in over our heads. You got to start making some better decisions. Now, you can't just sit up here, okay, we going for broke. We got a chance to win the Super Bowl. But now it's like, man, like the Saints aren't like, come on, man. We watched two of the best teams in the NFL last night play in the Philadelphia Eagles and the Miami Dolphins. even though the Philadelphia Eagles, then it wasn't very competitive. But both of those teams, you can just tell by looking at it, by the offensive innovation of Mike McDaniel, Tyreek Hill being a freak of nature at the wide receiver position, the Philadelphia Eagles defensive front. I mean, Raheem Mostert couldn't do anything. Ahmad couldn't do anything, right? Like look at the offensive line. Like every time they need a 1 yard for the Philadelphia Eagles, it's pretty much a no-brainer. All of those guys, for the most part, were developed by that organization. Can somebody tell me, looking at both of those teams, tell me that the Saints look anywhere remotely close to any one of those teams? And that's the best the NFL has to offer right there. Like, even I can't stand the Cowboys, but let's just be honest. Did anybody looking at the Dallas Cowboys and be like, man, so the Saints anywhere near close to these guys? Like, there's a lot of work to do. Like, sometimes, like I said, you have to really be real with yourself and understand where you are. In order for you to get where you are, you got to know where you're coming from. Like, you can't just sit up here and just be like, okay, man, I'm a winner. I ain't never won nothing, right? So, man, you got to have a sense of a realness, a sense of reality. And I just feel like the Saints have a false sense of reality. Like when it comes to themselves, and you have to have a level of confidence. I'm not saying walk around here like, man, I stink, I suck. No, but also you have to understand that. Like, one thing that I hate is like going back, listening to myself speak or listening to, my old shows. I've had like a hard time doing that. Well, I take that back. I used to, but how do you get better? Like, how do you know how to ask questions to the guest on the show? Like, how do you know how to give people a better listening and viewing experience? You do that by learning and from your mistakes, your errors, and become better. But when you sit up here and just think you got it all figured out, guess what? I guarantee you don't. I want to see Jake Haener play so bad. I don't. Not the fact that I don't like Jake Haener. It's just his coaching staff, man. It's just his coaching staff, and I just feel like anybody that comes in is just going to have their confidence shot. I just think they're going to have their confidence shot because there is nothing about this coaching staff to me that is instilling any level of confidence in some of these players. Like, you look at Trevor Penning, like, now it just seems like he's in his own head, like, I'm just not good enough. Even Chris Olave, it seems like he's in his own head. Like, Chris Olave wasn't like this last year. He wasn't. But now it's like he's in his own head because he feels like no matter what I do, it just ain't good enough. I ain't going to get the ball. And I don't want to see that. Like, I'd rather Jake Haener sit on a bench until the Saints figure this thing out and they get another coach, and maybe that coach will be able to see something special in him or bring it out of him. But I ain't trying to see that because as of right now, I just feel like Jake Haener would be thrust into the game and just go out there, slap him on the behind and say, have at it, kid. This sorry staff sees everyone's imperfections except Derek Carr for the head coach to be taking sides. Tell us all we need to know. Yeah, I mean, look, that was his guy. That was the one that he selected. That was the one that he wanted to come to New Orleans. And, like I said, you're not going to throw that guy under the bus. He ain't going to throw him under the bus because it's like him throwing himself under the bus. Plain and simple. Dennis Allen is in over his head. He has no clue what he's doing. You can't even beat the likes of Houston, Jags, Green Bay. You ain't beating the Lions, Eagles, or the Dolphins. Not at all. Not at all. Then honestly, it's up in the air. You're going to beat the Colts. I'm not saying that the Saints are going to lose every game. They're not. They're going to win some games. But, it's not a level of confidence that I have in the New Orleans Saints going to Lucas Oil Stadium and taking on the Colts. Like, it used to be like you expected the Saints to win. Like, you expected for the Saints to win the game. Like, if they lost, you was mad. Your whole Sunday was messed up because you were looking forward to seeing the Saints win a football game. I don't feel that way these days, folks. It's not the fact that I'm not a Saints fan, but I just have, I'm just like everybody else. Like, you see this so many different times. You have to be a fool to keep on, psyching yourself out like this. So I just kind of just watch the games. I want to say Misdemeanor said this. I want to say a couple weeks ago, like when the season first started. It's like she just watched the games, like don't have any emotional interest in it. Like you like you can't be so emotional to a point where it just mess up your week. Because honestly, based on how they playing, your week could be messed up every single week. So I just say, man, just watch the games, cheer for the moments that need to be cheered for. Be frustrated, but at the end of the day, if they play at 12 Central, 1 Eastern, they lose. Look forward to the next football game. Yeah, I have an enjoyment of actually watching teams. Like, I like football in general. Like, I love the Saints, of course, but I love watching football. And one thing that I love is just watching teams that just perfectly execute plays defensively and offensively. And just watching like some of these teams out here, just execute and just do such a great job. The offensive line blocking, the quarterback making really good decisions, the wide receivers out there making plays. It just makes you feel good and just makes you realize that that's what football is all about. And what the Saints have been giving you from time to time is just complete frustration. And that ain't what football is about. Not even close. 49ers, Cowboys, Philly, Bills, Miami, none of those teams at all. Hell nah, we trash. Yeah, I don't look. All I know is they got a long way to go. They got a long way to go. And the crazy thing about this is if they buckle down and like if we talking about tail of the tape, right? If we talking about tail of the tape, my players against your players, the Saints stack up against those teams. Like, that's the crazy thing about it. Like, if they had some competence as an organization, they can beat these teams that I'm talking about. If they have the talent and the skills and ability to do that. But when you don't have the coaches to get it out of them and see certain things and come up with certain strategies consistently, you're not going to see it. But under this coaching staff, yeah, I agree. The guest on the show. What guest we talking about here? Any young players coming into this coaching staff as it is would be doomed. Honestly, like if you remove like some of these old farts that's too complacent, I think they can do a pretty good job. Hope y'all know we not beating a coach. They put up 38 on the Browns and they favored by 1. Oh yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, I mean, look, the Cleveland Browns were the number 1 defense in football. They were the number 1 defense in football going into that game versus the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, the Saints have a really good defense, so I mean, don't expect don't expect for the Saints to just completely shut them dudes out. Now, if they do, I'll be shocked. As a former offensive lineman, it's hard to watch the offensive line get pushed into the laps of the quarterback or running back. That's not coaching that talent. That's talent. Yeah. But my thing about it is, here's my thing. I'm going to go back to this, and I'll get to Genesis and Joshua. Half of these guys that were on the offensive line, when Drew Brees was the quarterback, they didn't look like this. They were like flirting with all pros and Pro Bowls. I'm just like, what happened, man? Like, that's why I will continue to say Drew Brees is much better than even we gave him credit for. If he removes himself from the situation and they just turn to that, I don't know, man. I'm here. Y'all should beat us with Jameis. I know y'all will beat us. Thank God he won't see the field next week. What team are you? Are you a Colts fan? I assume you're talking about the Colts. But thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. Look, man, I ain't got nothing against the Colts. I actually like Indianapolis. I went for the first time for the NFL Combine. I mean, Indianapolis is a beautiful place. The people were nice there. So, I mean, honestly, like the fans were like really, really cool. Like, because when I went to the stadium to actually watch the Combine, you had a lot of Colts fans out there, and they were extremely kind, extremely kind and friendly. So, I mean, I like the Colts. I ain't got nothing against them. Is it Sunday yet, TJ? You get me hyped. Well, I appreciate it, man. Look, Look, I'm just here because number one, I love the Saints, and number two, I love what I do as far as doing podcasting. I love interacting with folk, and I love interacting with you, and I love the interaction of this show. So, I mean, win, lose, or draw, we gonna be here, man, because we ain't tapping out. It's not over. Like things are not always going to be easy. You're gonna have some ups and downs. You cheer for a team long enough, you're gonna find out there's gonna be some hardships and growing pains. But you got to continue to press on and continue to support them. But continuing to support them don't mean that you have to be delusional, which I feel like some people may want me to be. And that's not what I'm going to be. I am not going to be a delusional Saints fan. I'm just not. And honestly, those that don't know me, I don't care about their opinions or their views, because people will see me put a clip up on Twitter, probably never seen this podcast before, and they'll say, oh, he has like the worst takes ever. Like, you'll never look at anything that I'm doing. As far as, like I said, man, we can't be delusional about this thing. Like, we can be Saints fans, but some people, I just feel like it's just absolutely insane to feel like not saying anything about the team and just saying, we gonna get them next week. That makes you a true Saints fan. Like, you're out your freaking mind. Like, that may work for you, but it ain't working for me. Let's see. At the pace they're on, they're only due to win 3 or 4 more games. If they win 3 or 4 more games, I guess what? If they win 3 more games, that'll give them at 6. If they win 4, that'd be 7. So about 7 and 10. Seem like they're going to be flirting with that anyway. T Dirty says Derek Carr don't need to throw nobody under the bus. He just needs to lay down and simply wait on the bus. Says T30, who had me crying laughing earlier, man. You gonna bring out Blake Grupe with his old Rumpelstiltskin? That man called Blake Grupe Rumpelstiltskin, man. Oh my goodness, man. Hey, please, T30, look, please post that video on Twitter. I don't know if it was you that sent it to me. Matter of fact, let me see if I can find this real quick. Let me see if I can find it. I don't think I can, but man, my goodness, hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Check out T Dirty's rant about the game. Man, that man had me dying laughing. My goodness. I was not expecting that. When that man called Blake Grupe Rumpelstiltskin, my God, that broke me, bro. Hilarious. But let me acknowledge like some of the donations. Who that nation? Thank you very much for the $5. Says that Dennis Allen let Carr do that on the sidelines. He's so soft as toilet paper. Hoodie Jube, thank you very much for the 10. He says NFL or wide open crazy. 6 wins, 2 teams, 5 wins, 5 teams, 4 wins, 6 teams, 3 wins, 9 teams, 2 wins, 8 teams, 1 win, 1 team, 0 wins, 1 team. A lot of teams struggling, still 10 games left. Anything can happen. Yeah, I agree. I think this is probably the shortest time where a team didn't go undefeated. No team is undefeated right now. Like, normally you probably go into like 8 or 9 weeks where you have a team that's undefeated, but it just shows you like it's an equal playing field. But also, Hoodie, you got to be playing some good football. And regardless to like if these teams are losing, like the good teams consistently are putting forth efforts. Like, they'll have a slip up. Like yesterday, the Bills lost to the Patriots. Eagles last week, they lost. I mean, like, you're going to have like those teams that slip up, but more than not, you want to be consistent. And those teams have been consistent. So, if there was a loss, more than likely next week, they're going to get it together and somebody about to get beat to sleep. But when it comes to the Saints, like, you don't know what you're going to get. Like Forrest Gump said, life is like a box of chocolates. Well, life is like a Saints game. You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know if you're going to get a shutout. You don't know if they about to put up 30. You don't know if it's just about to be a 1-point game. You don't know what you're going to get. It's a completely mixed bag. So I just think that great teams win consistently. They find ways to win. Yeah, they'll slip up, but more than likely they'll figure it out. And then you'll see like a 2 or 3 game winning streak. Like, that's when you know that you have a really good football team. I seen that. It was definitely funny. Yeah, it was hilarious. That was freaking hilarious. That man had me dying laughing. I was not expecting that. I wasn't expecting that. We know NFL is wide open, But by the way, we are playing. We don't have a shot until we get the cleanup man to make some adjustments. The guy speaks in post game with his head down, says a lot. Yeah, I mean, look, you don't get a level of confidence that he could actually fix the issues, and I think that's something that he needs to work on. I don't think he purposely does that. I just think that body language is important. I know some people like get mad at me because, you know, I pay a lot of attention to like certain details like body language, speech patterns, stuff like that. But that's just the communications in me. That's what I majored in college. Like it teaches you about the art of communication, the art of persuasion, you know, the study of semiotics, what signs and symbols, what certain things actually mean when you're actually doing public speaking, to speak, you know, in an authoritative voice, you know, to speak with confidence. If you start looking left and right, not giving individuals eye contact, it kind of gives you the crowd like you're not very, it shows them that you're not very sure of yourself. And, you know, I don't want the coach to feel how I'm feeling. I don't want the coach to feel how I'm feeling. Where all my managers at? Where all my managers? Where all my team leaders at? How many times have you all had to have a deadline? The morale is low, man. I don't know how we gonna do this. I can speak to this, right? Because before I got into radio, I was a store manager for about 12 years, right? So that was around this time of year. That's when like Christmas and all that other stuff start coming into the stores, and you have to put this stuff out, and it just comes in by the boatloads, and people start to feel all the pressure. Like, man, we got to have this deadline. This seasonal section got to be put up. And imagine how it would be like, man, I don't know how we going to do this either. You know what? I don't know how we going to do this, man. We ain't got no time for this. This is ridiculous. That's going to get your whole team feeling like it can't be accomplished. As a leader, I'm supposed to look to you and say, you know what? We can get this thing done. But when I'm feeling bad about a game and I'm looking at all these other Saints fans walking out the Superdome with their head down in frustration, and some fans even go as far as crying because of the disappointment they expected for the black and gold to get that dub, and yet we go to Dennis Allen, he looking like he walked out the dome with us, makes me wonder, like, man, do we have the right guy in place when it comes to leadership? Like, seriously, no coach, no leader, no motivator should feel the way the audience feels, to feel the way the team feels, because the team is looking to you for motivation. Now I'm talking to all my management people out there. I'm talking to all my management people, all my leaders out there. Your team is looking at you to lead. You got to lead. I don't care if you got to go off in a corner somewhere and be like, and yell. I've been there. There's been times where I had to go to the restroom to kind of get a little woosah out because it was such pressure. But I can't let my team see me breaking. I can't see that. Like, who's looking at a Dennis Allen? Who's looking at a Dennis Allen press conference and saying, you know what, this guy got what it takes to fix this issue? Even if he does. Even if Dennis Allen goes out here, fix the issue, and the Saints win the rest of the games that they play, nobody would see that coming. Like, because you're not going to see it in his body language. And I'm not expecting for him to go out here and, you know, be on some Diddy Green stuff with the Bears, who we thought they were, and they let him off the hook. If you want to crown him, then crown him. I'm not looking for that. But at the same time, I'm looking for a little bit of some Mike Tomlin after a loss. I'm looking more for a John Harbaugh after a loss. Like, don't feel how I'm feeling. And at least don't show me that you feeling how you feeling. Like, let your wife and your kids see that. Don't let the media see it. Don't let the fans see it. You can't do that. You can't do it, man. This man be up there looking like he lost his best friend. I'm supposed to look like I lost my best friend when the Saints lose, not you. Yo, come on, man. Come on, give me a break. Hey, TJ, the Saints with Derek Carr as the quarterback will continue to find ways to lose games, and the boos will keep coming in the dome for real. Well, if they don't win, that's exactly what's going to happen. Elite guy says Christmas. Yeah, pretty much, man. You know how it is, man, at them stores. Look, I know my retail people know what I'm talking about. You start getting that first wave of Christmas around September. You might get that first little box of, box with the Christmas tree in there, and then when you take it out, got glitter all on your hands. TJ called Olave his head down too much. Yeah, look, when I go back and look at the All-22, I can understand to a certain extent why Chris Olave was so frustrated. But I cannot accept or condone a guy quitting. I just don't. I know people getting mad and people can't understand what I'm trying to say, because the reality is we live in a society today when somebody criticizes a person, that means that they don't like them, they don't respect them, they don't think they're good. I done got so many different interpretations on what I feel about Chris Olave to is absolutely ridiculous. I said that he's not a number one receiver yet. And I continue to say that because you cannot just crown a person a certain thing without them putting in the work. And that is what bothers me today. We just allow people just to slide in. They don't prove anything to us. No skins on the wall. No dog mentality. It hasn't shown us anything. Show us a catch or two, and all of a sudden we just fall for it. You can't do that, man. We got to stop letting people in so easily. We got to allow people to earn it. That's how we get our hearts broke. That's how we end up in disappointments. Relationships, we jump in stuff so fast. Oh, they love me. Oh, she loves me. And then the next thing you know, it ain't all we cracked up to be. How can I not have saw this? It's because you didn't ask the questions. You didn't allow things to develop. You didn't take the time out to figure the thing out. I'm not saying Chris Olave is terrible. I'm not saying that Chris Olave can't be a number one. I'm saying right now he is not, because you cannot exhibit those type of things that he is doing and call yourself a number one receiver. You cannot call yourself a leader when you're quitting. It's just that simple. You cannot call yourself a leader if you are quitting. It goes back to what I'm saying. People are looking at you for leadership. So I can't give him that crown yet. And I'm sorry if you can, but I'm not. You got to show it. Now, if Chris Olave goes out there and he just puts forth this effort for the next couple of weeks and he goes out there, goes over 100 yards, and I'm pretty sure people are going to let me hear about it. Oh, see, I told you he was a number one. Well, I will concede and say, you know what? He's showing that he's a number one, but I'm not giving it to him right now. And I don't care who feels any way about it. Once again, argue with your mama. If you feel like a guy who sits up there that quits on plays when things don't go their way, when the ball don't go their way, and he's still not sitting up there trying to encourage their teammates, but instead going in and packing it in and phoning it in, that's a number one to you, then fine. But it's not to me. And it never will be. It never will be, man. It's just that simple. That is not qualities of a top player. It's just not. And maybe some people feel that way because they quit everything in their life. But I digress. The reporter asked Tomlin one time, what's the keys to victory? And he responded, the more violent team will win, and walked away. That's a leader right there. Everybody is different. Look at the Dolphins coach. Yeah. I mean, Mike McDaniel is not one of those rah-rah guys, but at the same time, he has this level of confidence about himself. He's extremely arrogant. And he's one of those guys, like, you look at, he feels like he's smarter than you. He's more talented than you. He doesn't strike me, even in a loss, he doesn't strike me as one of those guys that just sit up there and just be like, man, we lost him. Oh, hope is lost. Like, Allen be up there like he lost his best friend. I'm like, man, where I need to send flowers to? Seriously. You know what I'm saying? Who I need to make it out to? You know, to the family or the bereavement. You know, like you got the family of the deceased. I need to, you know, like, what are we doing here? Like, I'm serious, man. This dude press conference sound like a funeral. Like, no energy. I'm ready for the reboot. Michael Thomas looked like he still can make some noise. Yeah, Michael Thomas can make some plays. You know, they say he's not the same Michael Thomas of old, but I still look at him as the number one receiver because I feel like he's the receiver you can count on in a tough spot. I'm going to stop wearing my glasses. I've seen enough of this season. I want to see Olave angry and play like it. Show everyone the true problem on the team is not you. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of scapegoats. Olave is the scapegoat this week. Carmichael was the scapegoat last week, a week before that, and a week before that. You know, I'm just waiting for the day where we just call it for what it is and say, you know, Derek Carr needs to take some responsibility for that. But DA looked like a deer in headlights on the sidelines and like he got laid off in the post-game press conference. Well, maybe one day that'll be true, but he don't need to look like it today. Dennis Allen press conference is dry as paint. Says Target, I guess that means spot on. If this team was to win the rest of the season outright, it wouldn't be because of Dennis Allen. It would be in spite of him. I agree. But sometimes, man, I take some in spite of. I take some in spite of wins. Like, as long as y'all winning. But I don't think it's going to be consistent success. Everybody is different. I already read that. I think we pretty much caught up with that. It says, our boys got us put is in the middle of who that? Our boys got us putting is in the middle of who is that, right? Gosh, that was clever right there. It took me some time. It's baffling that P. Carmichael didn't even want the job. Yeah, that tells you right there. Like I said, pure desperation right there. Like, we just want to keep things the same. Please come back. Please come back. Nah. Let's see. TJ say the Saints got sold and you had to root for another squad. Who would it be? What team do you like? How they do business on and off the field? Now that's a hard question. I still would be a Saints fan. I don't care if they got sold or not. I don't care. Like, if they ain't the New Orleans Saints no more, they some other Saints. I'm still gonna be rooting for them because that's the team. Grew up watching them. But I mean, I can tell you teams that I enjoy watching. You know, I enjoy, as of right now, I enjoy watching the Detroit Lions, even though they got whooped by another team that I like watching a lot, the Baltimore Ravens. I like how the Philadelphia Eagles do business. Like, I can't stand the team, and I don't think it's the team. I think it's the fan base. Like, those fans are like, my goodness, like rabid. But I like the way they do business. I like the fact they are never satisfied. Like, they always looking to get better. The 49ers are another team that I like watching. I like watching the Seahawks. And I like watching the Dolphins now too. You know, I like watching the Dolphins as well. But there's not a team that I just sit up here and be like, man, that's my favorite team right there. Like, growing up as a kid, ironically, I used to like the Raiders too because of Tim Brown. I like Tim Brown. Of course, like, it was pretty cool to actually have a player that was good with the same name as me. You know, like I said, that was like the first wide receiver that I really liked. But all in all, man, I ain't never just loved any other team but the Saints. I can't see myself like rooting for no other team or wearing no other team, you know, buying or investing jerseys and all that kind of stuff. You know, I can't see that. I can't. I took psychology in college as well. I can see the DA don't want to be here. As hard as still in Vegas, DA is in over his head, and so is P. Well, Jody, I don't think that it's the fact that he doesn't want to be here. I think that it's the fact that he's in over his head. I agree with you on that. I think when it comes to the body language, I just think that he's lost. He's lost, and he's looking for answers too. But you shouldn't look like it. You shouldn't look like it being in that position is all I'm saying. I'll take a few more, and then we're going to go ahead and get up out of here. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. We got 273 people watching this right now, so I'm just asking everybody to hit the like button if you enjoy the content. And shouts out to everybody, man. Like, look, the State of Saints podcast, we've been man, it's been absolutely amazing over the last couple of weeks. The show has been growing tremendously. And I appreciate everybody for coming in, sharing, liking the videos, supporting the videos. Man, I cannot thank each and every one of you enough for this. Like, it means so much to me, and I really do appreciate it. I do appreciate this. It says, no way in the world am I not a who that. Yeah, I can't see it. Travis, I agree with you. I can't see it. Going to sue this team for depression, emotional distress. And man, I say he taking the ball to court for emotional distress. Do y'all know the Saints have yet to score a touchdown in the third quarter through 7 games? The Saints have 0 touchdowns in the third quarter, and y'all wonder why we end up losing. Yeah, they barely scoring points in the first quarter, second quarter, or the fourth quarter. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Jerry says, thank you, TJ. Hey, Jerry, man, my mom loves you, man. Like, for real. Like, we have conversations. She love a lot of you, though, like Pammy and Tyra and all of them. She mentions all of you, but I think you have a special place in her heart, man, because she's always talking about how supportive you are, and you have been. Like, Jerry, I got to talk about Jerry for a few minutes. Jerry has been extremely supportive since this show started. I want to say I had like maybe 4 subscribers after 2 videos, and Jerry was one of the 4. And I started the show back in 2018. So when I say, man, I got so much love for this man, like, for real, like, I really do. And so many others, you know what I'm saying? So many other day ones have been here too. But I mean, Jerry has been like really extremely supportive. And like I said, so many others on here have been extremely supportive of the show. Come on throughout the years. Like I said, Pammy and Tyra and Chemo and Chosen and, Josh and all these others. So, they've been like extremely supportive. But, I got love for everybody here. I don't care if you're day 1 or 1,001. Like, you all make this show what it is. And thank you for making this one of the best things in the world to me. Says, do y'all realize the best scoring has been when DC goes to the no huddle offense and calls the plays? Yeah, I kind of noticed that too. That makes sense. Who mentioned that? Who mentioned that? I want to say Deuce may have mentioned that. Don't quote me on that, but I think Deuce may have been talking about that. Deuce Wenham I'm referring to. I think he may have mentioned that rather on one of his videos or social media. I can remember like somebody talking about that though. Do y'all realize the bet already read that? It says at this point, I'm out of ideas. I think you're not the only one here. It says if our team lose to the Colts and next Sunday, TJ, our team is doing the same old stuff ever since last year and Andy Dalton on at quarterback. Though offense needs to fix the rhythm chemistry, get rid of P. Carmichael, Dennis Allen, Derek Carr, and Mickey Loomis. Well, it might be a little hard for Derek Carr because of his contract, but P. Carmichael and Dennis Allen, you definitely can do that. Says, look at the Giants team right now. Things could be way worse. Hopefully our guys can collectively come together. Yeah, it could be worse. Says, I really appreciate you, TJ. Appreciate you, Jared. Thank you, man. Yeah, I look at the Giants. They won yesterday against the Commanders. Was that, like, honestly, Tyrod Taylor is not going to knock your socks off with his quarterback play, but he's not going to be the reason you lose. And I just think that sometimes, like when it comes to Daniel Jones, he's the reason why the Giants aren't successful. But they stuck with him because they paid him a contract, and that was their fault. They didn't have to do that, but they did. They could have, gave him a franchise tag. Oh, we don't want a franchise tag. Oh, well, Tyrod, go ahead and finish the season. And then y'all could have probably been in a really good draft spot where y'all can get y'all quarterback of the future. But instead, y'all rolling with Daniel Jones. And now you can see. And then all of a sudden, like, guys really start to kind of get that, mind frame like, I already got paid. And now it's like, now they don't really care, like, if the fans talk about they suck, because I'm still going to get my money, right? They're not even thinking about getting better at that point. Buffalo Bills had the best no-huddle offense ever back in the day when Jim Kelly and the boys. Yeah, inevitable. They had that called the K-gun. Yeah, I remember that, the K-gun. Yeah, they definitely They were one of the ones, the grandfathers of the no huddle offense. Yeah, but that kick gun was a monster until they played the Dallas Cowboys and got beat to sleep 52-17 and got beat again, in a couple more Super Bowls. I think they played them twice, if I'm not no, 3 times. No, twice. They played them twice. Played them twice in the Super Bowl. Third time Cowboys played Neil O'Donnell and the Steelers. And Neil O'Donnell was throwing more picks than Razor Ramon that day. But it says, if we're not going to win under DA, we need more losses for a better draft pick. Yeah, but I mean, David, well, what are you confident in with them getting? Do you think they're going to sit up here and be like, you know what, we were wrong about Carr, let's get a quarterback? I think we already know the answer to that, but instead, I think I'm going to let Bishop Bullwinkle tell you.
Hell no, to the no, 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 hell to the no.
We know they ain't going to do the right thing. Let's see. And finally, Jerry will end it on here. It says, ever since 2016, I was finding ways to connect with Saints content creators and Saints fans and NFL fans. Yeah, I mean, look, that's a great thing. And there's a great space. And there's always Saints podcasters growing every single week. It just seems like every week I see a different New Orleans Saints podcast that's doing an outstanding job. Shouts out to the Boo Tragedy. Shouts out to Deuce Wyndham. Shouts out to that boy Wolf and and Adam. Shouts out to all man. Shouts out to Hoodie Jube. Shouts out to Aaron. Man, just so many different ones. Big Q. I mean, just do an outstanding job, man. Nick Underhill, Ross Jackson. Man, the list goes on and on, man. I got to give shouts out to my boy Rod Walker and crew over there, Luke Johnson. Like, yeah, Rod Walker, my guy, man. I mean, they're I like the fact that they got like the little forum. They're a little bit more open, man, like as far as with the media. Like, I don't know if y'all watching that, but it's on NOLA.com. But they're a little bit more open, man. They ain't really sugarcoating over there. But I like the fact that everybody has their lane and everybody provides something different. Like any Saints show that you pay attention to, if you notice, like there's always like there might be a little bit of some similarities, but it's so different. Like because everybody kind of brings their own different perspective in there. Oh, yeah, and I also got to think about Boo Crew, my boy Chris over there, Boo Crew. But, yeah, everybody just does an outstanding job, man. And it's needed, because when the Saints were good, there was very little commentary going on about them. So it's good that you actually have people out here really just, going hard for the team. Because if you don't, then nobody else will. Yeah, but I mean, they got so many different podcasts out there. Like I said, I would skip a name. I definitely would skip a name. Like because I mean, they got so many out here. But it's not any disrespect to anybody. If I didn't say their name, because everybody does outstanding job. I mean, if you look up enough New Orleans Saints content on YouTube, they're going to come up. Yeah, they're going to come up. But yeah. I mean, all of them are good, every last one of them are good because you can tell like the passion is behind it. And I'm pretty sure they're going to have plenty more in the future. And there's going to be plenty more State of the Saints podcast episodes in the future because of fine folks like you. And thank you all so much for checking out the podcast. And be sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Hopefully we won you over. And of course, you can check out previous episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM. Also, you can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at TJAYJones8. And I really do appreciate your time. Make sure y'all check out the HNSN network. Go to your Google Play Store or your Apple Store. You can download HNSN every Wednesday. It's a new episode of the State of the Saints podcast exclusively on HNSN. It's a different episode you haven't heard. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the Saints game versus the Indianapolis Colts. What are the Saints' keys to victory? I think it's time for us to close the book. It is what it is. Derek Carr yelled on the sideline. Chris Olave kind of, left a lot to be desired. I mean, look, all that can be washed away with a win versus the Indianapolis Colts. That means that it can go into the right direction. But can the Saints do it? I mean, the Indianapolis Colts looked impressive, even though they didn't have Anthony Richardson. But we'll talk about it a little bit more on HNSN episode of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, your night, whenever you're checking out this podcast. And like always, all I got to say is, who dat?
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug. I'm good.